Alright, this is the third time of me fixing the card hover effect. And so I still need to correct the positions, but resizing, it's not gonna adapt whenever you resize the screen, which isn't a real issue for the game. But let me full screen it here before playing. Okay, so the way to troubleshoot this, because we can't use the Unreal object hover events, and we couldn't use like widget hover events, because those weren't responsive enough. So we have to actually keep track of our own hover state. So people do wacky stuff like move the mouse around too much. The animation state doesn't break. And so like I really didn't want what was happening before, and I don't think I'll be able to revert back to the code because I made too many changes. But if you just slid even from the left to the right, what would happen is some of the states in between would get stuck like halfway through, or it would still think it was hovered, or it would just create weird oddities, and then the animations would just be off a little bit. So this is really responsive, and it's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm gonna just review what I did. So to troubleshoot this, the main thing was debugging. So I made this debug screen draw here, and it's a specific kind of class called a HUD. And so inside of the game or world settings, there's a game mode, and we have this debug draw screen. We don't actually need a HUD here, so we have a HUD, but it's really just a widget. So anyways, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to like all the classes and stuff, but so we created a widget and called it a HUD, and then there's an actual HUD class that Unreal has that we're not using, and this is a different thing. So it allows you to draw on the screen, and so we started to make this like debugger, and so we have these tags you can add in, and so if I just enable these tags, you can turn things on and off. And so now, oh hey, that's not working, what the heck? Now we should get the debug draws, which it's drawing the pink box in the corner. It should be drawing it on top of the cards, and then that's the mouse position. So let me see here. Yeah, there it goes. I don't know why I did that, but so what we have here are these hover zones, but before doing this debug tool, I was literally with pencil and paper looking at these numbers here, and I'd move the mouse over a little and be like, okay, this is about the right number for when card number 2 should hover effect. And that's how I was calcing it, came up with a little algorithm, and then wrote it into the blueprints, and that was a disaster to maintain. So instead, getting the debugger enabled us to work through that. And just like leaving these tags here. And then this is the debug draw logic. So we have this debug positions that's set up in here. And there's a function that just establishes what those positions are. And right now the card size is hard-coded. I don't know if we'll need to support a variable length, but right now just getting the initial top left corner positions works. And then over here we just hard code 150 and 300. And I imagine that might need to change at some point, or we might need to make that a variable too. So, okay. Finding hovered cards. So when we go to show a card, there's this whole set of things that we do to get them to splay out correctly. And then finally, when we're done, we send all of this to the screen debugger to to see where the heck these positions should be, because we're wanting to respond to screen positions when it comes to the mouse control. Specific screen positions, which is really responsive. The biggest thing here to get this to work, I had a whole bunch of things I tried. I even deleted a lot of them, but using the current object reference for the card, we had let me pull this up. I had to use this. I had to create a specific object, which is, I'm just calling it screen offset. And so the screen offset is just this arrow component, which recently learning about arrow components, they are great. They're a great way to put like basically Unity's empty game object. But now it has a direction and it draws it on screen. So this is really handy. You can change the size, the color. It won't render in the game. And I love these things. They're fantastic. So we need the offset right here, way over here to get this to work. And that was the biggest issue with the hover and the debug draw is because we're using a perspective camera, the calculations that are being performed in this function right here, project world to screen, don't work out of the box. This works great for orthographic cameras, but we have all this calibration already for a perspective camera. Like this card over here on the side, like it's calibrated for perspective camera, and all the views are already calibrated, so we'd have to recalibrate to switch to orthographic. And then there's other issues that come up with that too, like when we do the cinematic camera stuff. And I don't know, maybe it's worth doing, but for now anyways, I wanted to keep the perspective camera, so that's why we're doing this. We have a screen offset, and it'll handle the weird math offset with the perspective 60-degree angle we have, which is here. So it took a sec. I didn't like math this out. I just tweaked it until it worked, and that was it. So I tried to perform some transformation math and matrix mathematics, and I just couldn't figure it out. So get actor transform. Uh, I think it might produce the same result as get world location, but there was a lot of issues. We tried doing get actor bounds, tried doing pulling it from the model, but this is like the actual true center of the actor, and that doesn't work. It needs to use this like crazy offset. So all of these can just go now. It didn't work. Oh yeah, this one was, I tried to take in the relative position we used to spawn it on the spleen, and then add it to this object scene root, its world location, adding or subtracting, and that produced interesting results. It wasn't totally off, but it also wasn't right. So this gets the most accurate angle there. There is a slight rotation, so we just do a adjustment here, and this kind of tilts the box a tiny bit, and that it makes it feel just right, like whenever, even when it's tilted. So that seems to work. We create this screen positions data, and we just track the vector 2s, and then later on, like as mentioned over here, then we send it up to the debugger. And yeah, I got to think of a way. I could probably just do a branch mode because we have this is debug draw. So I could just, do a little quick branch, and that might find a way to turn this off when we don't want it. Oh, so that should do the trick for that. I started organizing these blueprints differently. Like, I come from programming and we do things in lines, which this was kind of funky looking. I don't think this is intended, but it feels better because I can just read it kind of like lines. Um, and it's a lot easier for me to grok instead of like going left to right, which goes against my nature as a text file editor. I have to say that working with blueprints has been interesting. You can do quite a bit in here, but just nothing beats code. Still, I want to learn it this way so I can teach my team and stuff. So, okay, I digress. What's next here? So we got the logic for the screen position. Okay, how do we use that? So let me show the old logic. The find covered hard and find hovered card, and this has some. I deprecated it. This has some like experimental stuff where I was trying to figure out the mathematical patterns. Like, okay, the 0th card, and we were going to support 12. Drop that number down to 10. Just make it nice and even. We'll do some pagination later to deal with like excess cards. But for now, this is what we had. Like, it would try to, if you had your mouse too low, it would just say you weren't hovering on anything, or was that too high? One of the two. And then it would set this hover card index of like which card you're hovering. We were printing it out, trying to figure out what was going on. And then it would do all this math of like what is the hover width, and you would just take the X position and see which one it fits inside of, which that did work initially, but as soon as we made an adjustment to the card sizes or the hand splay, like how the card is splayed out, how the card was splayed out, it just wasn't working anymore because you have to come and adjust the math all over again, and that sucks. So this other version here, it uses the screen positions, and we are doing the same thing where we get the mouse position and we check if it's in the box point. But there's this nifty method is point in box. So we use this, and that will allow us to just simply find the index as soon as we do. Now this will favor the left side card. So a card on the left it's running in a loop order, so the leftmost card will go first, and that's going to favor that. So if we wanted it to favor the top card, we would roll this in reverse instead of this way. But I like the way it feels here, so we're going to leave it. Yeah, and that's it. If we don't find anything, we just return -1, and then it's the same behavior as find hover card. And so in the logic here, I just swapped this guy out, and that was that. It just worked, which I think this isn't being used anymore. Can terminate it. Find references. Shouldn't be used. Yeah. Get it out of there. Cool. So we can purge that, and that's it. The rest of it I haven't done yet. There's like some click logic and junk that needs to be worked through, but otherwise this is feeling good. And the positions themselves also need to be adapted, but now that we have we also don't need that. That was me learning how to use the HUD class. Now that we have it responding to pretty much any position, even like when the screen's the wrong size, it still has like some responsiveness there. You can see it's like really messed up. Something about the way it if you do it full screen, it's fine, which is the way we're going to handle it. So yeah, so this was good. So going to move on from here and get the actual click effect so we can attach the weapons and things to the ship in the background. And I'll get rid of this preview card. I use this to calibrate the position of the hand. So once we calibrate the hand position, then we'll change this for the actual graphic that needs to be there and stuff. Anyways, that's it.